Good afternoon. Hello.
Yeah. So good afternoon. My name is Ronald Peters, and I'll be the moderator for this afternoon session, final session on the 5th day of the Office of Integrity Commission Senior Leadership and Management Regional Training Program. Theme for the program was strengthening and sustaining integrity in the Grenada public sector system. This afternoon, we'll be holding the National Anti-Corruption Roundtable Mechanism. And I would like to recognize the presence here of Dr. Roger Corentang, the advisor and head of public sector governance, Commonwealth Secretariat, Mr. Winston James, deputy chairperson, other commissioners present, and Donna Hilaire Marshall, permanent secretary, Department of Public Administration, Director of Public Prosecution, Mr. Christopher Nelson, Head of FIU, Inspector Raymond Lokaibi, and his associate Teron Greenwich, AML CFT Commission, Constable Shem Walker, the Director of Statistics, represented by Timon Charles, Controller of Customs, Mr. Algernon Belfon, representative of faith-based organization, Reverend Deacon Merrill Lord, PSC representative, Judy Benoit, civil society representatives, Mr. Robert Joseph and Dawn Decoto, Mrs. Eunice Sandy David, Administrative Manager, Integrity Commission, Mrs. Elizabeth Henry Greenwich, Operations Manager of the Integrity Commission. Online, we have Canon Mark Kendall. He's the chairperson of the Commonwealth Caribbean Association of Integrity Commissions and Anti-Corruption Bodies, CCAICACB, and other members of the executive. Mrs. Sabrina Lane, acting senior HRM officer, Department of Public Administration. Members of staff of the Department of Public Administration, members of staff of the Office of the Integrity Commission. Yeah. Now, we're here this afternoon, the final section of the week, as we said. We'll invite the presence of the Lord, and we'll ask Mr. Devon Rashe to do the invocation for us.
Good day. May we do the honor of standing for prayer. Thank you, Commissioner Peters. It was the very wise Solomon in his writing in the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, and verse 3, who declared that the integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of the transgressors shall destroy them. And I think it is fitting in this time that in the spirit of Solomon's words that we invite the Lord's presence. Father, we are so thankful of every opportunity that we are given to come before you and to speak on matters that are championed within your word. We are thankful for the many partners who are here who in their own rights, Father, see the execution of your word by looking out for integrity and what is just and right within our society. So we pray your continued blessings as we engage in this, the 5th day of this training, and we pray, oh God, that Lord, you are going to be with us. That Lord, our interaction here will be fruitful so that we are further equipped to execute your mandate in this nation of ours. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Rashe. So we'll now ask Mr. Henry Greenwich to give us the welcome address.
Thank you very much, moderator of this afternoon's exercise. I know that we've had a long salutation list, so I won't go through all of it, but my protocol teaching has taught me that at least you must recognize the important persons in our midst. So I would like to recognize Dr. Quaranteng, our advisor and head of public service, public sector governance, Commonwealth Secretariat. Let me also recognize all of you esteemed ladies and gentlemen around the table. And I wish to recognize our listening colleagues from across the Caribbean who have found it important enough to join us in this, our leadership and management training. A warm welcome to you, our stakeholders and representatives of the Roundtable mechanism. It is heartening to see you here this afternoon. I recognize each of you here present as collaborators with the Integrity Commission as we set about continuing to initiate a change, that is a culture shift, as it were, in the fight against corruption in the state of Grenada. We are all doing our individual parts to address in what is recognized as acceptable around the world these days, that corruption is okay. But we recognize that illicit activities that are conducive to corruption in our various departments and entities and the country as a whole must be addressed. There is strength, however, in unity, and we must speak with one voice, one purpose, and one conviction. We have been fortunate here in Grenada because of our work thus far, we have been afforded help. For example, the Commonwealth Secretariat, who every year since the inception of this leadership and management program has supported our initiatives, have provided us along with all the other 55 member states, they're now 56, of the Commonwealth with benchmarks to guide our work in anti-corruption. I am happy to report that Grenada has effectively met the international benchmarks required for good anti-corruption practice for national government. And through mechanisms such as this roundtable, that we, that is all of us, will continue to excel in our work. Because of what we are doing, much is expected of us, and therefore we have to ensure that we put our best foot forward. On behalf of the chairperson and commissioners of the Integrity Commission, the permanent secretary and members of staff of the Department of Public Administration, who are our co-hosts, I bid you a warm welcome, and I hope that this afternoon's exercise you will find thought-provoking. Welcome all.
Yeah, so I'll now ask Canon Mark Kendall to bring greetings from the CCAIC-ACB. Canon Kendall.
Thank you very much, sir. I accept the protocol that has been established already, save and except to recognize Chairman Lady Anande Joseph and Dr. Roger Quaranteng from the Commonwealth Secretariat. I'm a priest in the Turks and Caicos, and I have been the chairperson of the Commonwealth Caribbean Association of Anti-Corruption Bodies for the last year. I greet you on behalf of the executive members of the body, and I wish to congratulate the Grenada Integrity Commission in association with the Commonwealth Secretariat for pulling off the week of seminars and discussions that you've had. We know that in the Caribbean, the status quo is that there's nothing wrong with a little corruption. And some people seem to take that a little further, that there's nothing wrong with even bigger corruption at higher levels. What you are doing and what others are doing throughout the region to fight corruption, I believe will bring success to what we ought to be doing. I believe that this is a fight that begins at the cradle and it continues until the grave. And any agency, any institution, and any one person who seeks to stamp out corruption at whatever level is doing a good thing which is aligned with the Word of God, and a good thing which will help us in this region to look after the welfare of people who are in need, because when monies go to persons who steal those monies for their own purpose, then the general population will suffer. And so again, it is a good thing what you're doing, Grenada. And I know that many persons in the region look forward to your efforts annually. And it is my hope that you may be able, through the Center of Excellence, to do even more programs, perhaps focusing on special persons like perhaps permanent secretaries or persons in other positions who I believe you can help tremendously, assisted by the Commonwealth Secretariat, to deal with governance, procedures, all in effect to try and reduce the corruption which we experience in this region. I'm very glad that this week has been a success. I joined on Monday and Tuesday, and on Tuesday when I joined, I think there were over 100 participants who were on virtually, which is a good indication of the interest that persons have in the anti-corruption fight. And so I look forward to a full calendar from the Integrity Commission in Grenada through the Center of Excellence in the coming years, where all persons in various capacities throughout the Caribbean can join, whether in person or virtually, to the training sessions that you have. So again, on behalf of the Caribbean Commonwealth Association, I congratulate you, and I encourage all of us to continue in the fight for anti-corruption here in the Caribbean, notwithstanding the sacrifices we have to make and the pushback that we get sometimes. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Canon Mark Kendall. So next we'll hear from Dr. Roger Corentang. He is the advisor and head of public sector governance in the Commonwealth Secretariat. Dr. Roger Corentang is the advisor and head of public sector governance at the Commonwealth Secretariat. He is also the principal specialist responsible for governance and anti-corruption at the Commonwealth Secretariat, and therefore is responsible for governance, anti-corruption in all 53 Commonwealth countries in Africa, Caribbean, Pacific, and Asia. I think it's 56 now. Okay, so it's not 53, it's 56 Commonwealth countries in Africa, Caribbean, Pacific, and Asia regions. Dr. Corentang has over, well, they didn't say number of years, but I assume quite a lot of years, has over the years promoted and championed anti-corruption in the Commonwealth member countries as non-Commonwealth member and as well as non-Commonwealth member states. His anti-corruption works is recognized globally. He has established the following organizations: 2011, the Association of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Commonwealth Africa; in 2013, Commonwealth Africa Anti-Corruption Center in Botswana; and in 2015, Commonwealth Caribbean Association of Integrity Commissions and Anti-Corruption Bodies right here in Grenada. This association provides a unique forum for sharing experiences, good practices, and benchmarking country efforts in the fight against corruption and the promotion of good governance in the Commonwealth Caribbean. Dr. Corentin is the proud winner of the 2018 Global International Anti-Corruption Excellence Award in the innovation category. This prestigious award recognizes persons annually who have not only demonstrated commitment to the prevention of corruption globally, but also their dedication to the Sustainable Development Agenda of the United Nations. Dr. Corentin holds a PhD, master's degree, postgraduate diploma from universities in Norway, Ghana, and the UK. He's married with 3 children. So Dr. Corentin will share with us this afternoon on the importance of institutional collaboration to ensure the promotion of good governance. Dr. Corentin.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair of the session. I would like to associate myself or ride on the earlier protocol observed by recognizing all of you and Canon and colleagues online. It's always been a pleasure every year for me to come here, and I can acknowledge those I know and those I'm not sure. The man with the gray beard, I know him very well because he's a trouble causer and a good friend. I haven't seen you for years since COVID. Good to reconnect again. So without much ado, I have 2 topics that I'm going to deliver on for you. The first one will be the benchmark. So if you can put a benchmark on. Because the benchmark will be something, since it's a round table, it will be something that everybody in the room could identify themselves with part of it. So we're going to look at the Commonwealth Anti-Corruption Benchmark. And I hope you have put my stuff there. Because, yeah, great. So as a way of introduction, the Commonwealth Anti-Corruption Benchmark is a response to the need for a simple pan-Commonwealth tool to provide practical guidance on clear steps that can be taken to promote integrity and combat corruption within government and in the private sector organizations. So what happened was that the Commonwealth anti-corruption agencies and governments tasked the Commonwealth Secretariat to come out with a comprehensive tool that touches on every and any aspect in the fight against corruption. So with that, we developed this tool. So having developed the benchmark, the Commonwealth Secretariat convened a meeting of experts to review, authenticate, and validate the benchmark package. And I'm happy to say that Lady Anandi Trotman Joseph. When I was writing this, I was mixing up the name. So now I know the correct name. So it's Anandi Trotman Lady Joseph. That's what I've been told. That's the correct one. For the lady, it's because of association. Was part of the expert that we invited to Marlborough House, Commonwealth Secretariat Head Office. Marlborough House is one of the Buckingham Palaces, so it's a hive of activity now that we have the monarch. The one that is gone, and then the king. our office is right in the middle of that area. So if you watch the television and you see that activities around Commonwealth Secretariat, because from the Marlborough House, you go to Clarence House and you go to Buckingham Palace. It's all one of the complexes. I keep saying that those days when the lead queen was alive, if I sit in my office in the first floor, I can see her going in and out. The road passes by my office, so I can see her going in the chariot or the horse ride. So we have a very close association. So but a fantastic lady. When she comes to our office every once a year, Commonwealth Day. As soon as you mention your country, she will tell you need something about your country. He had this photogenic memory that will put you at ease and you have some kind of conversation with you anywhere. If it's from Grenada, he will tell you something about Grenada because he has visited almost every country in the Commonwealth. And let's face it, she set up the Commonwealth anyway. Because by the time he got to the throne, the empire was being, countries were getting independent. So they have about 5 or so countries that had gotten independent. And she decided to bring them together to form an association. So from 5 to 56, when he has passed on, you can see, so the Commonwealth is her creation. So the package consists of 25 benchmarks covering topics from sanctions of corruption offenses to investigation and prosecution authorities, and from political lobbying to disclosure of assets ownership. As I was saying, the benchmarks consist of 25. So the first benchmark 1, deals with corruption offenses, sanctions and remedies. So here, Commonwealth countries are required or expected or encouraged to implement anti-corruption laws which establish the types of corrupt conduct that are criminalized and which provide for appropriate sanctions and remedies. Benchmark 2, those with authority responsible for preventing corruption. So member countries should establish and designate a public authority with responsibility for preventing corruption in the public and the private sectors. Benchmark 3, those with investigation, prosecution, asset recovery, and policing. Here, Commonwealth countries should implement regulations which are designed, 1, to combat corruption in investigation, prosecution, and asset recovery and policing, and 2, enable the effective investigation and prosecution of corruption and recovery of corruptible or corruptly obtained assets. So if we look at bench 1 to bench 3, benchmark 1 to benchmark 3, the lead institution that was supposed to lead on all this obviously will be the Anti-Corruption Agency or Integrity Commission. This is what we are required. Then if we look at benchmark 4, it deals with the court system. That means that you cannot fight effective corruption without a court, because the court that will pass judgment whether you are corrupt or not corrupt. No other institutions can pass judgment, can say you are corrupt or you are not corrupt. We can investigate you. You are accused. Accused person can be the person who have committed the crime or not, until the court determines that. So the court system has a role in fight against corruption. So member countries must implement regulations which are designed to, one, combat corruption in the courts system. Two, enable the judiciary to operate effectively and independently. And three, enable the effective determination of corruption issues. It's the court system that determines corruption has happened or not. Benchmark 5, those of parliament. That means parliament also have a role in the fight against corruption. Countries should implement regulations which are designed to, one, combat corruption in parliament, and two, enable parliament effectively and independently to pass anti-corruption laws, approve budgets, and hold the executive to account. Benchmark 6 deals with regulatory bodies or authorities. Member countries should establish or designate regulatory authorities with responsibility of regulating public sector and private sector activities, which provides services to the public and which impact on the public so as to combat corruption. Benchmark 7 deals with regulation of financial institutions and financial systems. So here, member countries should implement regulations which are designed to combat, one, corruption in financial services or financial institutions and the financial system, and two, the laundering of proceeds of crime, money laundering. Benchmark 8 deals with transparency of assets ownership. Asset ownership. Member countries should implement regulations which promote transparency of legal and beneficial ownership of organizations, land and real estate, trust and high-value movable property, so as to combat corruption. Benchmark 9, political lobbying, financing, spending, and elections. It's another corrupt area. Member countries should implement regulations which are designed to combat corruption in political lobbying, financing, spending, and elections. Benchmark 10. Public sector organizations. Countries should implement regulations which require all public sector organizations to implement an effective anti-corruption management system designed to combat corruption by, on behalf of, or against the organization. Benchmark 11 deals with public officials. Countries should implement regulations which are designed to ensure the integrity of public officials and which provide for the sanctioning of corrupt public officials. The benchmark 12 deals with issuing permits. Implement regulations which are designed to combat corruption in relation to the issuing of government permits. Benchmark 13, it deals with procurement. Member countries should implement regulations which are designed to combat corruption in public sector procurement. Benchmark 14 handles contracts management. Countries should implement regulations which are designed to combat corruption in public sector contract management. Benchmark 50, financial management. Member countries should implement regulations which are designed to combat corruption in public sector financial management. Benchmark 16, concession management. Implement regulations which are designed to combat corruption in public sector concession management. That deals with public-private partnerships and all those issues, concessions. Benchmark 17, assets management. Countries should implement regulations which are designed to combat corruption in public sector asset management. And benchmark 18 talks about independent monitoring. Member countries should implement regulations which require the independent monitoring of public sector contracts and the purpose of combating corruption. With the purpose of combating corruption. Benchmark 90, independent auditing. Member countries should implement regulations which require the independent financial performance and technical auditing of public sector organizations and contracts with the purpose of combating corruption. Then benchmark 20 deals with anti-corruption training. Member countries should implement regulations which require the appropriate anti-corruption training is provided to all public officials and to relevant personnel of all private sector organizations, that include NGOs as well, which execute major public sector contracts. And benchmark 21, reporting corruption. Member countries should implement regulations which enable persons to report suspicions of corruption in a safe and confidential manner to their employers or appropriate authorities. Benchmark 22, standards and certification. Member countries should permit, promote, and support the development and implementation of and certification to national and international standards, which are designed to ensure better compliance by organizations and individuals with laws, regulations, and recognize good practice. Benchmark 23. It deals with professional institutions and business associations. Countries should permit, promote, and support the establishment and operation of professional institutions and business associations. Benchmark 24 deals with participation of society in the fight against corruption. So member countries should implement regulations which require that the public is informed about and is freely able to participate in, report on, comment on, and lawfully protest against the actions of government, public officials, and public sector organizations. And then last but not the least, international cooperation. Member countries should implement regulations which require formal and informal cooperation between states in relations to the prevention of corruption, public education concerning corruption, the investigation and prosecution of corruption offenses, and the recovery and return of proceeds of crime. So, in conclusion, for the benchmark, we will say the Commonwealth Anti-Corruption Benchmarks are recommended as good practice anti-corruption measures. They are intended to help governments and public sector organizations assess their anti-corruption laws, regulations, policies, and procedures against international good practices and consider implementing appropriate improvements. The benchmark measures are designed to be achievable, practical, and auditable. The 25 benchmarks, each of which comprise of a principle supported by a corresponding benchmark. So I must say this is a summary of what the benchmark is all about. And the benchmarks principles, each of the benchmarks has a whole write-up that explains the process, the procedures, and the actions, and the action plans, the roadmaps of each of the benchmarks. This can be found on our website at the Commonwealth Secretariat. The website is thecommonwealth.org. So if you go to the Commonwealth, the Commonwealth one word, the Commonwealth is one word, the Commonwealth.org. So if you like, you can add the www.thecommonwealth.org. If you go to that website, you get all the background explanation of each of these 25 principles that it will tell you everything about that particular benchmark. So as I said earlier on, you see, anti-corruption fight is not for only integrity commission. Neither is it for only one agency. Every sector, public, private, NGO, civil society, and everything in between them, all fight corruption. Because corruption doesn't exist in only one sector. Corruption exists everywhere. Corruption exists in the public sector, in the private sector, in the NGOs, in the civil society. It's kind of there. Have you gone? Because I was going to say in the church. Excuse me, I didn't say that. Corruption is everywhere. And that's why it goes on everybody. Fight corruption. I delivered a program about why corruption must be rooted out. And I gave about 10 or 15 reasons why you have to fight corruption. And it was, even me that I've done corruption work for over a decade, I was so shocked that if corruption causes all this, then we shouldn't sleep over it. Because corruption affects everything and anything, from attacking democracy, job opportunities, bad service provision, health of the country, anything you can think of. corruption affects it. Bad roads if you don't have them. Corruption. If you don't have good water, electricity is not working, corruption. Everything. Because you see, the money is available for these services is siphoned off to even places that they don't need those monies. And the aspect that I don't understand, still can't get my head around it, is that when you take so much money and you deprive your own kings and kindred of these basic needs, and those monies that you are taking, you can never ever finish spending them before you die. What have you achieved? And those who have the opportunity to be corrupt continue to be corrupt. So it means corruption is an addiction. It is gone beyond need or grant or whatever. Is greediness? No. For me, it's gone beyond greediness. It's an addiction. Because I have opportunity to steal, I'll continue to steal. I have opportunity to get kickbacks, I'll continue to get kickbacks. So you amass this mass and continue to mass. Because you have 1 million, you want 2 million. Economists will tell you. If you have 2 million, you want 10 million. If you have 10 million, you want 20 million. So it goes on and on and on. The economists call it insatiable appetite, right? An appetite that is unlimited, ad infinite. It goes on and on and on. So those people, if you give them the whole central bank money, they'll collect it. And if you ask them, what are you going to do with this money? Is it a car? Is it a house? Is it yacht, or what? Look, assuming that you are built the biggest Buckingham Palace in some countries, something to that nature, big mansion. How many rooms? 20 rooms, 30 rooms, 10 rooms? Now think about it. In our lifetime, when you have our own building, house, have you seen anybody who says that I have 10 rooms in my big mansion? Day one, I sleep in room 1. Day 2, room 2. Day 3, room 3. Day 4, room 4. So you keep so that you can feel that you have 10 rooms and you have enjoyed all the 10 rooms. It doesn't happen like that. If we started doing that, then you will come and check you and see whether you are okay. But what do? You sleep in what you the so-called master bedroom. I don't know why you don't have madam bedroom. It's always master anyway. That's all right. So-called master bedroom. So one bed, and that bed is what you're going to sleep on so long as you are in that house. That same room, that same bed. If you, I don't know whether people even change the position of the bed. They don't change it. It's the same corner there. If you have a spouse and you fight with your spouse, then you divide the bed and then you face the wall. That's all that you have. Why do we worry ourselves, seriously, about these material things? Whilst you are depriving other vulnerable people, basic needs. I keep telling people that when you are doing public education in corruption, tell them so that the people, the citizens will understand the effect of corruption. That if we don't have good roads in your community, it's corruption. If we don't have water to drink, it's corruption. When electricity is not working, it's corruption. That's what it means. So that they will now start fighting against those who are corrupt. Because if you don't tell them and you say, oh, corruption is bad, corruption stop, they don't get it. That public education, that corruption is bad, they make billboards on the roadside, stop, say no to corruption. Who listen to those things? People drive past by. It doesn't make sense. But as soon as you say your area, your community, there's that bad road that you don't have because of corruption. You say, yeah, is it true? Hey, then that means, oh, you don't have good schools for your child. It's corruption. You don't have that you're supposed to have in your community. It's corruption. That they will stand up and started voting out all those people who are corrupt. Yes, because it's affecting their private life now. So we have to be quite innovative in the fight against corruption and bring people At this stage, any question, comments, or disagreements? Come again, sir.
How it was created.
Yes.
How we created the benchmark. Yes.
All right.
So as I was saying, there was a request. The request came from we had a six- and that's something we use. More or less like if you want to develop this, we have all these areas. So, of course, we manage the process, and we started putting it in. We went step together. We have to now all the potential. Whatever. Every you that's what and that's why when we finish, we have to take it to the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. They meet every 2 years. We call them the choker for them to endorse because they have to endorse before we can come more or less accept it. But if you have not endorsed, I can't come and start putting in your mind. And then somebody will ask me, where is it from? Who has actually do this? And so it has went through a process of about 2 or so years before we get to this point. It has been launched, and then it's been put on the website. So it's free for anybody who wants to have access. The principles are just the background side, but the main meat is big. In fact, we got in copies to the Integrity Commission like that. Big, because each of these principles have the right cap as to how you can deal with that principle, how you can process through it. So that's how it came up. Thank you. Thank you. Right. Any more?
Can you share with us your perception with the response?
I was going to ask you whether you're from the media because yesterday, yesterday they asked me the same question. Let me check whether you work with them.
Yes, my perception about the benchmarks. Okay. Sorry. Is it the benchmarks only? What? Come out with your question again. To the benchmark. Okay. Yes. As I was saying, the benchmark, the first 3 benchmarks, it pertains to Integrity Commission. But the other aspect, public sector, court, and all those things also have implications for other institutions and sectors in Grenada. But let me put this statement up front there. You see, there is no country that is not, or no country that doesn't have corruption. Not in Donald Trump, US, not in, okay, now UK, I don't know who is there now. That one was sacked. No, he was Donald Trump's friend. They are the same class. So no one got rid of. Liz Truss is there now. There's corruption in UK. There's corruption in Germany, corruption in Japan, corruption in China. There's corruption everywhere. And there's corruption in Grenada. Yes. Yes. I know you support that point. But Grenada is not the worst corrupt country in the world. Neither is Grenada the least corrupt country in the world. I was teaching a concept called 2080 rule. And the 2080 rule says that if you want 100%, something you want 100% totally, that's what you are requiring for, you wanted. Within the 100%, you get 80%, which is good, which you can get. But the 20% you can't get. As a human being, what do we do? Instead of being grateful for the 80%, no, we complain about the 20%. The 20% that is not good, that we cannot get. That's what we focus all our attention and everything. Instead of saying, thank God we have 80%. Now back to the question. You see, the issue is that Grenada, let me start from international, your reputation around the world in terms of governance and corruption. In terms of the 80%, you have a lot that Grenada should be thankful of, because you chop 80%. Peaceful transfer of government. Check. Not every country in this world can have peaceful transfer of elections. Transfer. You do elections every national have what they call corruption perception index. It's an example. Now, this perception index, every year we rank countries according to your anti-corruption standards. And this ranking is based on not what they come and ask government. What do you think corruption is? No, because they know government will say, oh, me, I'm doing well in corruption. They won't ask any government these questions. No. They ask independent people, businesses, people who are doing business in your country who come from outside, investors, some NGOs, some public servant. It can be anybody, but they give you some questionnaire for you to do. They collect this data in all kinds of forms. That data will end up in somewhere, they analyze it and collect all these data sets and rank it. Consistently, ever since I've been in the Commonwealth Secretariat, Grenada is doing well at some point, because you see, the mark is 100%, 100. If you get 50 and above in terms of the score, the explanation is that you are doing well fighting corruption, even though there's corruption in your country. But at least when the corruption is exposed, you deal with it. Or
you have institutions who are resourced enough to do what the international committee expected them to do. So they have integrity commission, you have FIU, you have the police, you have all these agencies, you have NGOs who are putting fire under government, you have all those things, they look at it and grade you. If you have 50 and above, that means you are dealing with corruption better. If you have 49, your score is 49 and below, that means corruption is endemic and you are not doing anything about it. So very soon the corruption will swallow you up. Okay. Now what has been really that score? Recently, let's go back to this, maybe 2016 to 2021. Consistently, Grenada have been above 50%. According to not me, not you, but Germany, internationally, their headquarters in Germany, Berlin, called Transparency International, they do this. And they are saying to the whole world that Grenada, your mark score is always have been 50% and above. That doesn't mean that there's no corruption here. You're going to be seeing corruption every now and then. Yes. But if you compare to countries who are also getting 20 and 30 and 10, what about them? What it means is that there's room for improvement. But corruption, you are not worse off. In fact, Grenada is not worse off in terms of corruption than US. I'm telling you. Go to US. Go to Mar-a-Lago. So that's what I'm saying, that sometimes it's good to focus on the 20 and try to improve, but don't be too hard on yourself. Of course, anytime corruption comes, we have to deal with it. If corruption is exposed, deal with it. And that's when they will realize that you are doing well in the fight against corruption. Because look, whether we like it or not, corruption will happen. Corruption will happen today, corruption will happen tomorrow, and tomorrow next corruption will happen. It's human nature, but the way you deal with it. So the way to deal with it is strengthen your institutions, strengthen your NGOs, your civil society, your law enforcement agencies, so that they all have a role to play in the fight against corruption. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Three related points of questions. One, does the Commonwealth Secretariat, like international transparency, has some role to do with evaluating countries in terms of corruption?
You mean the Commonwealth Secretariat?
Yes, yes.
No, we don't rank countries. We don't rank because by our mandate, we are a family. So as a family of Commonwealth nations, we don't come and say, you are a family member, you are useless. You are a family member, you are good. We say we are all family members. If there's a problem, invite us to come and help. That's our mandate. But we have other agencies who are not, they are not part of the family members. So they can call out, like the Transparency International, like the World Bank, like the IMF, they can blacklist you, they can sanction you, they can do whatever, because they're not part of the family. So we don't, but we help.
Parameters used by Transparency International. Are they part of, do they make reference to some of the standards of the Commonwealth Secretariat on corruption? Do they?
Yes, the way, yeah.
They do.
Yes.
In terms of this benchmark,
yes.
I think that is only it's recent.
Yes, very recent.
Could you consider it, I hope some other organization outside of the Commonwealth look at this benchmark and to gauge countries to see how many of these are implemented as a tool to grade, as we talk about corruption perception index. So maybe it could be added on to the international transparency.
Right.
Finally, in terms of the 80-20 principle that you explained, and you applied it in terms of the second question, which was asked. And to me, you use this principle in a universal general way.
Yeah.
I prefer that you use the principle within context specific to corruption. So how could we apply 80-20 principle, let's say specifically to Grenada?
Yeah.
And it will be premature, but as I suggested earlier on, the 25 framework that you use will be a gauge to judging countries such as Grenada going forward. I think like it's
Yeah, no, you make a very, very good point. That's why you are my friend. Only that you like to banter me too much. You are very correct. It's very, very recent. If I will just endorse this benchmark, but some countries have taken a lead. In the Caribbean, it's Trinidad and Tobago. They are taking the whole 25 benchmark to implement to see where they fall short, which of them they are on top and which of them they are lagging behind and all that. So that's what we encourage member countries to do. So I'll be happy to say Grenada can do that, to see which areas that they are on top and which areas they are lacking on. So that's a good one, because that's what the benchmark is supposed to be. For there's the Transparency International, they were part of us. They were part of it. They approved it. The UNODC was part of it. World Bank, every agency that matter in the fight against corruption, good governance, they were part of it, including UK and every. So that is it. The 2018 rule, I think I should have maybe make a presentation on it before I brought it. But if we want to apply to the 2018 rule is a universal concept that we can apply to anything, all right, to measure what you have and what you don't have. And then you see whether the 80-20 applies. Let me say in this class, we can apply the 80-20. Then we do apply the 80-20 rule in a course like this. Everything that we're going to say here, according to the 80-20 rule, when you leave this door and you go back, you're going to remember only 20% of all the things that were mentioned here. You're not going to remember. It talks about how the 80-20 rule came was that, I think in Italy, some scientists recognize that all the Italian wealth, only 20% of the population became 80% of the total wealth. And then later, when people realize that this concept is true, every country, including Grenada, the rich 20% will control 80% of Grenada wealth. US is the same. The whole world is the same. So if you look at the whole world like this, the 20% who has the 80% of the whole world resources are few 20%. You know them. Bill Gates, Bezos, Amazon, that crazy guy called Elon Musk, those people, 20%. They control 80% of natural resources. And it has been applied. In fact, the next time I come, it's a short presentation. I can show you. You can apply to everything and everywhere. So in Grenada, it's the same thing. In the fight against corruption, you can see that corruption is part of good governance. In fact, let me say this. There are some countries that haven't got anti-corruption agency. No, they don't have integrity commission, they don't have anti-corruption agency, and yet corruption is very low. What does it tell you? It means that you cannot have anti-corruption agency, integrity commission, or institution to be effective when the country governance system is bad. No, it doesn't work like that. So you go to Barbados, which have been #1 in the Caribbean since recording time. The least corrupt country in the Caribbean is Barbados. They don't have integrity commission. They don't have anti-corruption agency. They don't. They don't. So what does it tell you? So it had corruption and good governance are the same. If you have good governance, your corruption goes right down. If you have bad governance, corruption goes up. That's why I started by saying that Grenada should look at the 80% of the good governance we have. You have anybody come to threaten you at dawn, have they come and arrested you and abduct you at dawn? You can have, you want to do whatever you want to do. You shout, you don't want to shout, don't want to shout. Nobody takes you on. You are bringing rest of the governance. Go to some country. I keep telling you that, you see, I have a case where I was looking at the way countries around the world in terms of Commonwealth, how they treat dissent. Anybody who criticizes government, how they deal with them. I realized that the least ones were Caribbean. Caribbean, you have all the protection. South, demonstrate. Not all of them. Not all of them. Some of them. My country is good. Ghana is good. Go to Ghana, you don't have a problem. They are just like you. But some in Adon is when you are adopted. No, you are being invited. How can you be invited at dawn to police station? That means that at the end of you are shouting too much. You go to Asia, in the afternoon, broad daylight is when you finish it because you are shouting too much. So you see, there are different ways of government promoting good governance. So I'm saying that you have a lot of things to be thankful for. Yes, you should shout people like you. That's your role, and it's protected in good governance that you have to criticize, put institutions under fire so that you all want to make sure they get the best. That's okay. You have roles to play. But the 2080 rule applies generally. You have a lot of things to thank. But we also have to focus on the corruption part of it. And when the corruption comes up, you should make noise for them to deal with the corruption. So that's when you make progress. You don't cover it up. Shout, make noise. What's happening to this? Yes, that's how you all develop and you make progress. But the corruption is going to happen, no matter what. Okay. But it's part of human being. That's what I would say about that. Is it there? Put my next slide on so that you don't waste too much time. That's my. Sorry? The next presentation, sorry. Okay. Yeah, this presentation, the chairman said that. So, thank you. For this presentation, we're going to start from the known that you have heard, like emotional intelligence and all that, to the known that you have not heard much, to the adversity quotient. So we'll see how it goes. Have you put my slide on so that I can use my PowerPoint, my pointer? Okay. So let's start with emotional intelligence. See, emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to identify, assess, and control one's emotions and the emotions of others and that of the group, according to Daniel Goleman. Your ability to assess your emotion, assess the other person's emotion or the group emotion. In practical terms, this means being aware that emotions can drive our behavior and impact on people, positive or negative. Learning how to manage those emotions
both our own and others. Your ability to manage your emotions and other people's emotions. Then intelligence. Intelligence is one of the main characteristics, features by which we can differentiate people. Oh, so you are recording me. So when I move, he goes there, and I come back, he comes, he's a robot. I have to start saying. Okay. We know that intelligence is what we normally use to differentiate people. Oh, you are intelligent, you are not intelligent. You are clever, you are not clever. That means that they put you in a pigeon box. All intelligent people, the assumption is that you're going to be successful in life. All those who are not intelligent, you are useless. And then you have those in between. You don't know, you may be like beauty lies on the beholder. You look at you somehow, say, hey, you may be a little intelligent. Oh, no, you are not. Depends on who is looking at you. So emotional intelligence, two combined, is defined as the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves, for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationships. Emotional intelligence is the understanding of your emotions and how to manage them. And it is recognizing emotions in other people's and then managing your relationship with them. You see, if you have emotional intelligence as a leader, you can manage appropriately. Let me give you a typical example. The army, you know, in the army, they have what they call the sergeant major or warrant officer. The sergeant major is this uncommissioned officer. He's not an educated officer, but he's the toughest of the armed forces. They are those who train the cadet and even officers. You go through them, and they will certify that you are an officer because you passed their rigorous training. They are hard, these sergeant majors or warrant officers or whatever you call them. And then they have a commandant. When the warrant officer, tough guy, who does the training and train the cadet and drill them and do all kinds of things. These people can make you do press ups for 100, and then you do 60, you collapse, and they will hit your back for you to continue. He went into the mess and saw his commander. So commander looked at him and said, Sergeant Major, I said, yes, sir. He said, what is wrong with you? He said, sir, there's nothing wrong with me, sir. The commander said, Sergeant Major, I said, yes, sir. I'm asking you, what is wrong with you? Sergeant Major looked at the commander and said, sir, there's nothing wrong with me, sir. So the commandant went this way, went that way, looking at him. He said, Sergeant Major, for the third time, I'm asking you, what is wrong with you? He said, sir, it is my wife. Your wife? Yes. What is wrong with you, Commander? What is wrong with you, your wife? What is wrong with your wife? Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major said, yes, yesterday was payday. When I collected my paycheck or my money, so when I was going home, I met colleagues, so we went to the bar, the drinking spot. I drank, and all my money got missing. So I went home. My wife said, today is the payday. Where is the money? I couldn't find the money. My wife just pulled my ear like this and dragged me outside the house, locked the gate. So last night, yes, sir, I slept outside the house. Now, can you imagine this tough man that everybody is afraid of in all the army there? His wife is the one who controls him, you see. So you see, sometimes wives. So last night, he slept outside the house. Then the commandant said, okay. This is money, my own money, counted for. Take it, go and give it to your wife so that tomorrow, today, you can sleep in the house. Go and give it to her. Don't go to the drinking spot. You say, yes, sir. Then he went. Now, that commandant has emotional intelligence. You see what he means? You see, normally you greet people, oh, how are you? You say, I'm fine. He's not fine, but he say he's fine. But you can know, if you have emotional intelligence, you know that the person saying he's fine is not fine. That's what it means. The ability to understand and manage men, women, boys, and girls to act wisely in human relations. If you have emotional intelligence, you have the ability to manage men, women, boys, and girls. Because you know, without opening their mouth, you know what is wrong with them. Any leader who have emotional intelligence, you have subordinate, and you can know who is not talking to who is at loggerhead with who without even opening their mouth, because you see in the class, when you speak, everybody is laughing. This person will not smile, will not laugh. That means there's something between you and. Whereas that when you speak, everybody is laughing and he's not laughing. If you have emotional intelligence, you can detect those things. Emotional intelligence enable you to manage if you have them. It is the capability of an individual to recognize their own emotion and those of others and use emotional information to guide thinking and manage behavior. Emotions to achieve goals. You can use that emotional intelligence to manage behavior. Some people also cannot manage their own emotions. Some people, when they come to the office in the morning, you could see there's something wrong with them. What is it that happened at home? You bring it. So some people, they can say, hey, boss has come. Look at his mood. Don't approach him or her. You have to manage and see when he's okay before you can go and approach. Because such people, they can't manage their emotions. You have to manage it for them. So managing emotions can be very simple and can be important in any situation when we are under pressure. For example, you have to manage your emotions when we are giving and receiving feedbacks. Feedback and which is not very good, not positive, or meeting tight deadlines, or dealing with challenging relationships, not having enough resources or money in your pocket. Somebody says when you are working and you don't have money in your pocket, you look very light. Even the wind can blow you, you go that way. When you have money in your pocket, you walk like that, as if the money is giving you weight. So don't have enough resources in itself, you are already annoyed. So things that really annoyed you. But particularly you don't have money, your kid comes to you and daddy, we have to buy this. You say, you have to go to this. Go to trip where? Because you don't have any money, you are annoyed. Navigating change, working through setbacks and failures. All of them require emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is currently listed by the World Economic Forum as one of the 10 skills needed to thrive in 2020s. Emotional intelligence contributes to people's management as well as coordinating with others. It facilitates problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. Emotional intelligence directly affects decisions made by employees. Employees with high emotional intelligence are self-motivated. They identify potential workplace conflict and prevent them from escalating. As I'm saying, for a leader in workplace, you can know who is not talking to who, where the conflict points are, and you can identify them and deal with them before it becomes crisis. Emotional intelligence and leadership. Emotional awareness and understanding are not taught in school. Great leaders who understand empathy possesses the ability to read people's needs and desires and apply this knowledge to accomplish common goals. As I'm telling you, great leaders who understand empathy possesses the ability to read people's need. You can look at that person and know there's something not right with this person. Like the commandant and the sergeant major. A relationship exists between transformational leadership and emotional intelligence. So emotionally intelligent leaders are more effective and successful in reaching set goals. Now, great leaders who understand empathy, possess the ability to read people's needs, as I've mentioned, and accomplish goals. So let's move on from emotional intelligence to social intelligence. Because social intelligence have to do with social skills. Ability to handle interactions in respect of relationship with other people. Ability to handle interactions in respect of relationship with other people. Ability to use social interaction skills to influence, persuade, and negotiate as a leader. It's a social skill. It's also involved influence, leadership, developing others, communication, change catalyst, conflict management, building bonds, teamwork, and collaboration. Now, these competencies must be developed over time in order to develop and improve performance. So you can continue to develop your social intelligence throughout your lifetime. What are the key elements of social intelligence? Word fluency. Word fluency, your ability to explain and talk, orator. You can easily spot someone with a lot of social intelligence at a party or social gathering because he or she knows how to work the room. Okay? The highly socially intelligent person can carry on conversations with a wide variety of people and is tactful and appropriate in what is said. One person that I've known that he has this is the late monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. Mine. He can talk to anybody and anywhere on any topic, and you make you feel at peace, comfortable. Because when it comes to the Commonwealth Secretariat, we are all lined up in the room like this. In fact, we can't sit when the Queen is there. So we all get up, long hall, and we all will stand by the wall. And you start from here, talk to you, where do you come from? You mention your name, your country, then there will be conversation. It goes here, there's another country, there will be conversation. So before you realize, he has spoken to everybody on relevant issues that you are aware of. Social skills. Knowledge related to society. Socially intelligent individuals learn how to play various social roles. They are also well versed in the informal rules and culture of particular society that governs social interaction. In other words, they know how to play the game of social interaction. As a result, they come off as socially sophisticated and wise. If you don't understand, and this one had to do with even the culture of the place you go. They say, if you go to Rome, do what the Romans do. And this simple thing was lost on some big American company who was selling a very efficacious or very potent or very good painkiller around the world. They've discovered this painkiller, they've invented this drug, which was so, no matter how levels your pains are, take this tablet, it will kill it. So they started going to advertising in every country and selling them. And they have a very simple way of doing it. They have these posters. The first poster, your head is on fire. Second poster, you are taking their tablet. The third poster full of smile. That's what the picture was communicating. So when your head, you have big headache, take our medicine, you'll be fine. They go to every country, they do the same thing. They place all these posters on around billboards and everywhere, and people come out, they look at it, they buy, they're happy. So they were successful everywhere they went. Then they went to another country. One particular country, when they got there, they did the same trick. Nobody bought one single drug. They didn't buy one. Why? When they did the research, apparently this country was a Muslim country, an Islamic country. And you know, for Muslim, they read from the opposite direction. They read from the opposite direction. You see, how do we read? If you take your book, you read from here, that. They for them, they read from here, that, from here. So what that poster was saying is that you are at peace with yourself. You come and take these wonderful drugs and your head is on fire. Now, who buys problem like that? Social skills. Socially intelligent individuals learn how to play various social roles. They are also versed in the informal rules and culture of a particular society that governs social interaction. So, what's going on? They also have effective listening skills. Socially intelligent persons are great listeners. As a result, others come away from an interaction with a socially intelligent person feeling as if they had a good connection with him or her. Sometimes you meet somebody for the first time because if that person have a social interaction, you'll be thinking you have known this person for years because it makes you feel comfortable. You talk nicely. You are relaxed and say, yes, as if I know you you have been my friend for a long time. Meanwhile, no, it has social skills. Role-playing and social self-efficacy. The socially intelligent person knows how to play different roles, allowing him or her to feel comfortable with all types of people. As a result, socially intelligent individual feels socially self-confident and effective. What sociologists call social self-efficacy. They also understanding what makes people tick. Individuals high in social intelligence attune themselves to what others are saying and how they are behaving in order to try to read what the other person is thinking or feeling. Because a socially intelligent person can look at, in fact, if you're a teacher, you are in a class and you are teaching. If you have social intelligence skills, you can know whether what you are teaching is going to their mind or they are confused. You can look at it and you know. And when you realize they are confused, then you change. Or you can look at them and say they are dozing. They are tired. Then you change the tempo. So it's all applied to skills. In relationship, you can apply the same thing. Social intelligence and emotional intelligence are correlated. People who are especially skilled are high on both. The ability to recognize and manage emotions is considered as 4 times more important than IQ in achieving success. What is IQ? What is IQ? You don't know IQ. Intelligence quotient. You said Donald Trump has a 5-year-old, 5 years old, old boy IQ. Oh my goodness. Now I'm getting to my favorite part. Quotients. Okay. Now this. We need to be mindful that extraordinary achievement in life depends on many things. Just being intelligent, that means having IQ. Just being intelligent does not mean you will be successful in life. And just because you are less intelligent does not mean you fail in life. Now, have you wondered what makes one person more successful than other? Intelligence matters, yes, but it's not a sufficient condition as you might think. Because there are 4 types of quotients that might impact differently on our lives. These are intelligent quotient, IQ, that we all know. Then we have emotional intelligence that we may know, we may not know. Then we have social quotient, which is quite new. And the one we don't talk about it at all is adversity quotient. We normally talk about first one, IQ. What each of these mean and their impact. Intelligent quotient is what helps people or what helps one to know book knowledge, to have book knowledge, solve mathematics, memorize things, and recall subject matter. That's your IQ. Your EQ, emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, is what makes people or makes someone, what makes someone to be able to maintain peace with others, keep to time, be responsible, be honest, respect boundaries, be humble, genuine, and considerate. That is your emotional quotient. That gives you that. Social quotient is what makes people to be able to build networks of friends and maintain it over a long period of time. And then the fourth one is adversity quotient, which is a score that measures the ability of a person to deal with adversities in his or her life. Hence, it is commonly known as the science of resilience. A little bit more on adversity quotient. Adversity quotient is the one of the probable indicators of a person's success in life, and is also primarily useful to predict attitude, mental strength, perseverance, longevity, lesson learning, and response to changes in environment. Adversity quotient has been characterized as being about how you respond to life, especially the tough stuff. It is a measure of how you respond and deal with everything, from everyday hassles to the big adversities that life can spring on you. The more resilient you are, or adversity quotient you have, the more effectively and constructively you respond to life difficulties, and the more fulfilling life becomes. So let's go back a little bit. The difference between IQ and EQ. IQ test measures your ability to solve problems, use logic, and grasp or communicate complex ideas. EQ test measures your ability to recognize emotions in yourself and others, and to use that awareness to guide your decision. Of course, both intelligence can influence your job performance, relationship, and overall well-being. What is their impact in life? People that have high emotional and social quotient tend to do far better in life than those with high intelligent quotient, IQ, but low emotional and social quotient. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. Go back, way back, think way back into when you were a child, when you went to school, maybe primary school, secondary school, or universities. Now check and see those who were number one in class, number two, number three, the top in the class consistently. And now check and see where they are now. Those who were number one, number two, number three, consistent, primary school, secondary school, or whatever. Check and find out where are they now. Then you realize that not all of them have been successful in life. And those who were just an average, you are not last and you are not on the top. You are somewhere in the middle. They are very successful. In fact, some were even drop out. They are very successful. Because most of the richest men on earth, all of them were dropouts anyway. None of them has first degree. Bill Gates dropped out. He couldn't finish and he went to do computer in the garage or whatever. So the fact that you have book knowledge doesn't mean that you'll be successful in life. That's what we are saying here. A person with a high IQ, book knowledge, qualifications can end up being employed by someone with a higher emotional and social quotient, even though he or she has an average IQ. Yes. I've seen people who have not been to school before. They have businesses that they employ people with PhDs. Yes. So the fact that you can rattle the Queen's language now, to be the Queen, you rattle the English and do all kinds of things, have chains of qualification, doesn't mean that you'll be successful in life. In fact, if they give you a post, you can't even perform. If all the chains of degrees you have in front of you or behind you, I don't know whether the degrees in front or behind, or they write your name, then you put yes here, you put the name, the degrees are after your names. Yeah, so what is their impact? We need to improve our emotional and social quotients, and more importantly, our adversity quotient. Because you see, emotional and social quotient makes you manage better than others without them. Emotional and social quotient make you manage better than the others without them. Adversity quotient makes you go through a rough patch in life and come out without losing your essence and ambition. Adversity quotients determine who will give up in the face of trouble, who will abandon their ambition, or who will be resilient and successful in the face of adversity. So you may wish, therefore, to develop and improve your adversity quotient. If you have two babies, two babies who are learning how to walk, one of them start walking, then you fall down. Normally, if a baby start walking and fall down, what do? They cry. So this one fall down, you lie down and cry and cry and cry till the mom comes and picks him up. Stop crying, it's okay. Second baby, he falls down, he cries, he gets up, he falls down, he cries, he gets up, he's still crying, getting up and falling down and getting up. Immediately, I know who will be successful in life. In fact, this one, I will waste my time on this one. This one that lies down and cries forever. This one that falls down and gets up and cry and fall down, watch him carefully. He will be successful. Not the one that mommy will come and take him, and because if you don't take him, you lie and cry to the next day. You won't get up. This one, get up, fall, get up and fall. It tells you something straight away. Adversity quotient determines who will give up in the face of troubles, who will abandon their ambition, and who will be resilient and successful in the face of adversity. You may wish, therefore, to develop and improve your adversity quotient. The term was coined by, adversity quotient terms was coined by Paul Scholes in 1997, so it's quite recent. In his book, Adversity Quotient, Turning Obstacles into Opportunities. To quantify adversity quotient, Scholes developed an assessment method called Adversity Response Profile. An adversity quotient, AQ, is a score that measures the ability of a person to deal with adversities in his or her life. Hence, it's commonly known as the science of resilience, as I said. Again, it is the most probable indicators of a person's success in life, and is also primarily useful to predict attitude, mental strength, perseverance, longevity, learning, and response to changes in the environment. A man with IQ can end up being employed by a man with high, I've said that already. You develop habits that will improve these three Qs, but more importantly, or more especially your AQ. The more resilient you are, the more effectively and constructively you respond to life difficulties, and the more fulfilling life becomes. Last year, I was invited by Rutgers University in US as a graduation keynote speaker in US, Newark. In my speech, I said, those of us, I like to tell stories. So my speech, I'm going to tell you a story. And that story, to tell this whole professors and big guys and the master students, a big crowd. I said, I'm from Africa, so I'm going to tell you an African story. Because for us, we teach by telling stories. And the story is simple. there was this great king in a kingdom. He had one beautiful daughter, princess, who was up for marriage. He invited all the legible bachelors on the land to come to the palace to see if any of them can marry his daughter. On the appointed day, everybody came from near and wide, wanted to marry the daughter of the king. Because the king have said that anybody who marry the daughter, he will be given half of his wealth and half of his kingdom together with his daughter. So everybody was excited. They went. When they got there, what happened? The king said, all of you come out. They went out like here. Outside the palace, there was a big river there. They pointed to the river. Any of you who can swim across this river first will be the one I'll give my daughter to marry. Immediately, everybody rushed, wanting to jump into the river to swim first. But everybody stopped in their tracks. No one wanted to enter the river. Why? Because in the river, there were wild snakes, the crocs, the hippos, any dangerous animal you can think of was in that river. Who will jump into this river? All of a sudden, there was some commotion somewhere there. Some young man was in the river, swimming and cursing and crying and shouting and swerving and swerving. Cursing and cursing and cursing. All of it. Immediately, after a long while, he swam to the end. Then they started cheering. They brought him to the king. The king said, this is my daughter. Half of my kingdom is yours. Half of my wealth, gold, diamond, whatever, it's yours. But when the king was speaking, the young man wanted to say something. But they say, hey, when the king is speaking, please don't talk. Wait. So the king finished speaking, has given the daughter as a wife, kingdom given, half of the wealth given. Now, young man, you can speak. When you open his mouth, who pushed me into the river? Who? Who pushed me? Who pushed me into this river? Because it was never his intention to jump in this dangerous river. So when you find yourself in the river, he thought he was dead. So when he was cursing and insulting, he was cursing and insulting whoever pushed him to kill him in the river. The king said, it doesn't matter who pushed you or who didn't push you. You are now the heir apparent. You have half of my kingdom and everything. But then I was telling them, even they were also laughing like you were laughing. But you see, think about it. What is the implication? Everybody in this room can identify himself with this story. Why? Because in our lives, think back, something might have happened in your life that you may be cursing God. Why is it happening to me? Why am I going through this? Why have they rejected me? Why am I? But after a while, years down the line, then you look back and say, yay, that was the best thing that has happened to me. That was the best thing that has happened to me. And I was telling them about my own life experience. I finished university, I've done my master's. I was a very efficient, good lecturer. My class was packed every time. My lectures was fully participated, packed, and my students were excelling. Because me, when I teach you, you don't need to go and read again. Just imagine me in the class and remember everything. All of a sudden, American financier came to my country, wanted to set up a big business. So he asked me for somebody to manage the business. I gave him 5 names. None of them he interviewed he said they were not qualified. So he came to me again. He said, but what about you? I said, me, no, I can't. I'm in academia. I'm comfortable here. I'm doing work. I'm training ministers, chief executives, senior public officials. And I was good because I left the UK after my Birmingham, no, Netherlands. So I'm okay. I had my master's. Anyway, he said, well, this is the envelope for the appointment. I'll leave it here. You look at it. If you think about it, call me. I said, go away. But something said I should open it. When I open it, I started looking for him. Why? Because my salary at the time was less than $1,000. This man was going to pay me something like $10,000 a month. I immediately, hey, have you gone? Because I changed my mind immediately. I changed my mind immediately. I have to call my vice chancellor and say, look, I'm gone. I want 2 years leave of absence. No, but he said, you can't go. Who is going to take over this? What about the ministers? What about the chief executive? I said, oh, get somebody else. I'm gone. He brought ministers that I was helping them to convince me not to go. I showed this minister, I think it was the minister for education or something. I showed him the appointment letter. He looked at it. He said, hey, okay, go. I'll find something to tell. I'll find something to tell this man. So I left. I went to this place, put it was a new business. So we set it up, everything. It started working. Money was coming in. After 1 year, the contract was 2 years. After 1 year, this man looked at my face and said, I'm paying you too much. Because I realized that in Ghana, average salary is about 2,000. So I can't pay you that much again. I said, what do you mean? He signed a contract. He said, no. 1 year, I have to reduce it at least by 50%. I was so furious. I work Monday to Sunday. And that, I couldn't just stomach that. I left in anger. After 2 days, I realized that I was unemployed. I said, hey, what have I done? So in my confusion and everything, what do? I took my phone and called back my vice chancellor that I want to come back. So I called him, say, Prof, who is this? I said, oh, Roger. Yeah, Roger. Yes, how are you? I said, fine. I said, I want to come back. He said, hey, you want to come back after 1 year? I said, yes. Then he was quiet. He said, Roger, you know what? Since you left, I've been praying and praying that you come back. So God has answered my prayer. I said, you don't know what has happened over there. Anyway, I went. When I went, then the government passed a law that if you want to work in the university as a lecturer, you must have your PhD. So immediately, if I want to stay here, then I have to get a PhD. So I started looking for a scholarship. Then I got scholarship after 3 months when I returned back to the university. And then I got scholarship to Birmingham to do my PhD. I went back to lecture for 1 year. I got appointment in the Commonwealth for 3 years. I'm in Commonwealth now for almost 15 years. In my work, I've got international recognition. I got award with a prize money of about 250,000 US dollars. I had the opportunity to talk to every country in Commonwealth, heads of states, ministers. So I look back and I was saying that if that man has not pushed me from that job, I will still be a slave to this man. And I'll be working my butt out from Monday to Sunday. And I'll grow very old in time. But at that time, I was cursing God. Why? Why have you made me unemployed? Why this? Why that? So if that has not happened, if I have not put myself together and move on, first, I was telling them that I wouldn't be here talking to the University of Rutgers University, master students, and the whole school. And obviously, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you because I will be holed in Ghana working for some white man who doesn't respect anything. But God knowing, push you out, even though you may not understand that time, it was the best thing that has ever happened to me. And everybody like you have a story like that to tell. It may be different, but it's still some challenges that we've gone through. But because you have the adversity quotient, because you are able to get up or sustain but you were not pushed down forever. You got up, and now you are wherever you are now. You all have a story to tell. So I say to parents, expose your children to other areas of life than academic life. Because academic life gives you only book knowledge. It doesn't prepare you for life. Take the children to the village. They should see, maybe here you don't have proper village. Go to Africa and see proper village. Take them to the village to see how they cultivate corn, how they cultivate granules. They should see how food are made. Make them learn how to mend clothes when it is torn, shoes and ornament. Send them to the wood workshop, mechanic shops. Do not always take them to the supermarket and the malls and the like. Take them to the farm grower where they sell the food right from the farm. Because you see, if you don't, then they think like our kids in UK now, who think that chicken has no feathers. They have no head. So when they see a chicken, they wonder, what is this animal? Is he a bird or what? I said, that's chicken. He said, no, chicken. If we say this chicken, no, it's not chicken. Why? Because ever since they're born, they go to the supermarket and the chicken they see have no feathers, have no head. Now, how can such a person, if he grows up, how can he survive in an environment like that? So you need to make sure that they don't always go to the supermarket. Take them to the grower's food shop where they see fresh things. Also take them to visit the bereaved so that they know that life is not as they see, but they are vulnerable in the society. People die. Take them to the hospitalized, to the orphanage. Let them see the other side of human beings. Not the only one they know, the prim and proper they see. Such people, when they become politicians, they are out of touch. In doing this, they develop the EQ, the SQ, and most importantly, the AQ. Finally, they become integral human beings able to do things independent of their parents. Finally, do not prepare the children. Finally, do not prepare the way for the children. Don't roll the red carpet for the children to walk on. Rather, prepare the children for the way. Because if you roll the carpet for them, they don't know where the carpet was coming from. They don't know how you managed to get the carpet. They cannot manage it long after you're gone. I've seen people who say, oh, I have 3 children. I'll build mansions for each of them. Yes, you build and go. See what will happen next. Either the building will left to ruin, or somebody with AQ and SQ will come and take it away from them, almost free for nothing, because these people are foolish. They are not streetwise. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the adversity quotient of an individual plays a greater role in how one reacts to life challenges. Individuals' adversity quotient determines whether one can stand strong and true, continue to grow when faced with adversity, or if one will be crippled and destroyed. It's your adversity quotient. Your intelligent quotient represents your book knowledge and your retentive memory. Call it intelligence. Your emotional quotient represents your character, your honesty, your integrity. That is your character, your emotional quotient. Your social quotient represents your people skills and your networking. Call it fame. Everybody knows you. You have a good networks. But your adversity quotient represents your resilience. and success. Adversity quotient. It represents your resilience. The resilient is the one who will have adversities thrown at him 100 times. He will get up 100 times. He will fall down 10,000 times. He will get up 10,000 times. That is the one who has adversity quotient. The one who doesn't have will be destroyed by any challenges that will confront you. You destroy your ambition, your dreams, and everything because you give up easily. People who have adversity quotient don't give up easily. No matter what, they'll put it behind them. They'll cry a little bit, put it behind them, and move on. Life changes. I've seen people when system change, when policies change, they are thrown out, they are rejected, but eventually they come back. Your adversity quotient represents your resilience and your success. So adversity quotient, ladies and gentlemen, really determines one's ability to thrive in this demanding world. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, thanks for the presentation. And at the beginning, I missed, so I don't know the connection with this second presentation and the first. I know there's a connection, but I just want to submit that. Is there a way of analyzing, as I give it the illustration with the two young children, of analyzing an individual on these cues to get an idea, perception as to the possibility, the potential for he committing corruption. Secondly, I have a funny, stupid thing about myself. Whenever I hear a presentation like that, since I'm small, I wish my brother, my siblings, my whole family and community is exposed to it.
Yeah.
So I think you had 1 week session. I may have asked this question before in a previous session. High level officials of government. I hope, especially the idea of anti-corruption and this skills, I hope they're exposed to it. If it was not part before, please give a mandate to Lady Chapman, Joseph, to make sure she transmits it. And finally, the one with the parents in particular, I think there was a teacher here or whatever, pastor. It is very important for the schools and the educator here to get this information. Very important. PTAs, Parents Teachers Association, the church youth groups, community centers, and the Ministry of Education. Not only the teachers' induction program, but that need to be penetrated. And sorry for saying that, it will be difficult, but I'm trying, especially in this computer age. Everything now gravitate, and even to make a little oil, over to cook some food, a child goes there to get the recipe, which may not be, most of it is not, whether they're learning from the parents or the grandma. And this community oil down and go and fish no more. So, like itself, I think previously you know that whenever we going to go against anti-corruption, use the word I don't put it here. There's always a pushback. So while this sector is here, those authority and those who have influence, they need to know it and be convinced, or else they're part of the corruption. Because we didn't know with the electronic age, ICT, and the digital economy, which are different perspectives. But they broaden it. It will broaden. In the textbook, you have a lot of textbook, but everything is done on the computer. Examination on the computer. So it's not difficult with this generation. So I just said, let me make these 3 points and see how, despite the fact we are confined here in the Integrity Commission, but especially the latter part, this will need to be extended universally in Grenada. And Lady Chapman, I think I put it on to you. Please, the Ministry of Education, the schools get it, and the committee groups and the churches. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. Okay.
I think I'll yield to Chairman
All right,
because he
so-
make all the points, so I don't need to, but maybe you want to react.
I will have to respond.
Yes,
Huh? You have to respond?
yes.
Okay.
I'll stay from here. I don't see Mike, so good afternoon. Sorry to be late. I've been very much called into duty lately. And it's really our good fortune to have Dr. Quarantine here. But even I myself, I heard a lot about the PQ and the IQ, but the AQ really is a new one to us. And really exactly what is needed at this time in human history and in the nation's history. But just very quickly, and thank you very much, our dear civil society brother, we just want to share that only this morning, Dr. Koranteng and I were in the cabinet room, sensitizing members of the new government, the new cabinet, about what is required in terms of public sector governance and management, vis-a-vis integrity and anti-corruption, risk management, internal audits, and so on. And Dr. Koranteng, who's a global governance and anti-corruption expert, offered to return. Suggestions were made to him to return. We do have our able representative from DPA, and I know that she will ask him to return, not just on the part of the Integrity Commission, but it is so important, as he shared with Honorable Prime Minister, who met with him before he left as well. What you sow, you shall reap. It is better to start with the example of leadership right at the top, get it right, and everything cascades from there. So just want to share that. For the educational point of view, we are hoping that we can disseminate even these discussions that we're having, including today's discussion, with, it will be on our website, it will be with GIS generally, and we will continue to spread the word. But the Integrity Commission has had an uptick in its efforts to reach children, school children from the primary level all the way through. We have involved Camp CC, secondary, primary schools, not only here in Grenada, but in Carriacou with Reach to Martinique. The reason for that, if you want to shift a culture, it doesn't make sense. You can't teach old dogs new tricks. You can regulate them, you can chain them, you can tie them, you can pen them, but the pups, you can easier train them through love, care, guidance, and so on. So for us, we are utilizing what we call a life cycle approach in terms of dissemination of our information, in terms of public education. And we didn't stop there. Our technical and professional team, they're currently working with the Ministry of Education so that the curriculum can be adapted and infused with integrity principles and values and ethics, so that from nursery all the way up, maybe health and family life and all of those similar curricular programs, then we know that slowly, we are working on a preventative approach. Of course, DPP, our chief investigator, but DPP in its own constitutional right, overseeing the implementation of the criminal code of the nation. That's another matter in itself, but we all have to work collaboratively. And I'm so happy to see so many stakeholders here this afternoon with the commission and our team, because our mandate now is about collaboration. It's not silo time. We are in an era of sustainable development. It requires joined up action. And I've given a long way around many paragraphs in answer, but I would use that to sum up my contribution for the afternoon. Sorry to be late, but I was pressed with other related activities, and I was with Cabinet only this morning up until midday. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lady Joseph. So those of us here with person, we will have, there's a folder on our desk in front of us. There's a registration form in that folder, and also an evaluation form. I would ask or request that you complete those for us, please. Thank you. Okay, so we heard the term Transparency International and term Corruption Perception Index. So the next presentation is intended to increase your understanding of the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index. And that presentation will be done by Mrs. Nicole Humphrey Best, who is the Communications Organizational Compliance Officer with the Grenada Integrity Commission. Mrs. Humphrey Best is an experienced communication specialist who has served on both sides of the media. She's worked for GBN for 5 years, for the BBC for 3 years, for the Caribbean Media Corporations for 4.5 years. Yeah. She served as a communication specialist for a number of entities in Grenada, including NAWASA and Grenada Food and Nutrition Council. So without any further deliberations, we'll ask Humphrey Best to present.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Correnteng, I was trying to ascertain my level of emotional intelligence, surveying the room to see if at all I can read the language that's been spoken in terms of people concerned about their time. Not sure if I got it right, but what I will do is to rush quickly through to just saying that would be slide number 3, Transparency International, what it really is, and protocols established. I stand on those. Thank you very much, Chair, Commissioners, Management, Dr. Correnteng, DPA, and colleagues and friends all. Transparency International, ladies and gentlemen, presents itself as an independent, non-governmental, not-for-profit organization whose mission is to stop corruption and promote transparency, accountability, and integrity at all levels and across all societies. The movement, because they refer to themselves as a movement, it has 17 priorities, and those include whistleblowing, public procurement, the right to information, asset recovery and theft of public money, business integrity, and grant corruption, and that's just to name a few. However, what they say are their featured priorities are political integrity and dirty money. Transparency International also engages in advocacy, research, and projects. And coming out of its research, they have 3 publications or 3 documents that they put together. One is called the Corruption Perception Index. Then you've got the Global Corruption Barometer. And then there's an online publication called the Knowledge Hub. The movement has what it also calls local chapters. And these chapters are in over 100 countries around the world. And in the region, the chapters are in the Bahamas, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, and Guyana. The CPI ranks 180 countries and territories, and Dr. Correnteng spoke a lot about that. So except to say, I'm just going to add this part so that we can move on quickly, that this year, the global average remains unchanged for at least, they said it's over, in one part of their documentation, they said over, it's the 10th time, it's at, well, over a period of 10 years, it's been at 43, and another one of the documents said it's over 3 years. Nonetheless, it seems to be stagnant according to the report in the Corruption Perception Index. 43 out of 100 that you can get. 68% of the countries, that's more than 2/3 of the countries around the world, score less than 50. The countries who would have scored highest and would have been ranked first in 2021 are Denmark, Finland, and New Zealand. I think I need to, let me just skip a couple slides and go to that short video that's going to explain how they do their ranking. Because the slides I'm skipping are those that show us the top 10 countries, and then those that show us the bottom 10 countries. And if we were to rate the bottom 11 countries, unfortunately, Haiti would have been in that group, right? They just missed it. We just do that video quickly and then we move on to, we're going to skip a couple of the slides after that.
The Corruption Perceptions Index, also known as the CPI, scores and ranks countries around the world based on how corrupt their public sector is perceived to be. The scores reflect the views of experts or surveys of business people, not the general public. We calculate the CPI using data from 13 different external sources. Transparency International is not involved in the production of any of these 13 datasets. The CPI includes data produced by the World Bank and the World Economic Forum, as well as by private risk and consulting companies and think tanks. Each of the 13 sources rates countries using its own scale. One source rates countries on a scale of 1 to 7, for instance, while another uses a scale of 1 to 100. As a result, direct comparison of country scores between different sources is not possible. Therefore, we transform each score from the original scale into standardized values that show the position of each country relative to others. By doing this, we are able to compare country scores across the 13 different data sources. After standardizing all scores, we then convert them into a scale from 0 to 100, which we use for the CPI. Next, we simply calculate the average of the transformed scores for each country. The average score is the CPI value for each country. In order to ensure reliability of the results, only countries with data from at least 3 sources are included in the CPI. The CPI results are comparable across time back to 2012. This is because when we convert the original data to the CPI scale, we take into account the 2012 parameters, which turns 2012 into the baseline year. Annual CPI results from before 2012 cannot be compared to other years. The 13 different data sources used to calculate the CPI all measure various aspects of corruption in the public sector. This ranges from bribery, the diversion of public funds, and the effective prosecution of corruption cases, to adequate legal frameworks, access to information, and legal protections for whistleblowers, journalists, and investigators. The CPI does not measure activities such as tax fraud, money laundering, financial secrecy, or illicit flows of money. Corruption generally involves illegal activities which are deliberately hidden and only come to light through scandals, investigations, or prosecutions. Researchers, civil society, and governments have made advances in measuring corruption in specific sectors. However, to date, there is no index which directly measures real levels of corruption in all its manifestations. The data sources that make up the CPI ask business executives and country experts questions which are based on carefully designed questionnaires. The CPI scores generally correlate with certain objective measures, including citizens' reported experience with bribery. To ensure that the CPI methodology
Okay. All right, I think we got the gist of it. I'm sorry the video cut off like that, but in the video, they spoke of 13 data sets. We're not going to go through all of them. I just want us to pay attention to the data sets that are used to measure the countries of the region. So we're going to skip this slide and the other one, and we go to the data sets, because in the region, 8 data sets are used. We have the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, the World Justice Project, Varieties of Democracy, Global Insights, PRS Group, Bertelsmann Stiftung Transformation Index, and the Economist Intelligence Unit. But for Grenada, we only have 3: Global Insights, World Justice Project, and the World Bank Country Report. And I'm just going to take a minute to talk about what Global Insights look at. And you're going to see why afterward, because Global Insights, their questions, they've got questionnaires that they issue. Dr. Corrington spoke about those questionnaires. Global Insights questionnaires seek to assess vulnerability of individuals and companies to bribery or other corrupt practices in the execution of business, from securing major contracts to being allowed to import or export a small product or obtain everyday paperwork. And we're going to just go over to the other slide now, where we look at the regional data sets. And here I want us, I'm really sorry for speaking so quickly, but I cherish and I respect your time. So if I'm talking too quickly for you, I'm sorry. But I want us to pay attention to the numbers in red. These are the numbers that represent the amount of data sets that each country is measured on. If you look at Grenada, you see 3. Trinidad and Tobago has the most, they've got 7, and the data sets are listed across here. But let's go back to Grenada, because here you will recognize, you'll begin to recognize why I wanted us to pay attention to what Global Insights look at. Global Insights have given us a score of 47, as opposed to World Justice Project, they've given us 52, and the World Bank, they've given us 62. Can we go to the other slide, please? Looking at the stats. Let's skip this because I want us to get as quickly as possible to Grenada, right here. Global Insights. From 2016 right up to 2021, they've consistently given us 47. Whereas with the World Bank and the World Justice Project, we can see our scores moving up and down. That 47, I know for us as Grenadians, it's just not acceptable. Yes, I have paused for us to think about it, what it is we can do differently. Let's move on, please. So on this slide, I asked, what can we do to improve our scores? But the real question is, what can we do to improve our governance structure and what we do? But before I get to that, I want us to look at what Transparency International refers to as the dirty side of the so-called clean countries. The clean countries are those that would have scored high, or should I say ranked high in the perception index. And they do have a dirty side. So they said that, and I'm quoting now from their report, it says, journalists' reports showed that high-level officials, oligarchs and billionaires around the world shielded themselves with anonymity with the help of law firms and company formation agents acting as corporate service providers based in Singapore, Hong Kong, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States. And these numbers that we have near to the names of these countries represent their scores. Now, Grenada scored 53, right? Our score is below theirs. They've scored 85, 76, 69, 67. Their scores are higher than us, but they do have a dirty side. The report went on to state that the investigations also showed that foreign business people and politicians facing corruption charges in their own countries exploited the loose New Zealand trust structure, opening 88 trusts to obscure their identities when executing financial transactions. And the 88 next to New Zealand is the score that New Zealand got on the Corruption Perception Index. As a matter of fact, New Zealand was ranked among the #1 countries to at least to have low levels of corruption, or perceived to have low levels of corruption. So now what can we do? What really can we do? Conduct risk assessments and act upon the results to reduce risks and vulnerabilities to corrupt practices in public bodies. Increase engagement of civil society organizations in the fight against public sector corruption. Engage in compliance and ethics training for public sector officials. Promote transparency, accountability, and access to information. Encourage and protect whistleblowers. At least we don't call them whistleblowers in Grenada because we do not have laws for that. But the laws that we have that come closest to whistleblower legislation would be the Prevention of Corruption Act. And this act has provisions in it for public employees to be protected from victimization by their employers should they choose to expose corruption in their offices. Another thing we can do is to provide timely reports to international institutions as required by international agreements. We need to have timely implementation of recommendations that would assist in the fight against corruption. We need to use the gift registry. And if perchance this is the first time any one of us in the room hearing about the gift registry, I'll briefly say that the gift registry is a system by which public officers or officials can register any gift that they have received during the execution of their duties that is valued above at 500 EC dollars and above. And it could be cash or kind. Now, this is in keeping with Section 45 of the Integrity in Public Life Act, which speaks to the issue of the receipt of gifts, gratification, and rewards by public officers in the course of the performance of their duties. Now, declaring such gifts, some people may think that this is something personal. Someone gives me a gift, who cares how much it's valued? But declaring such gifts is a safeguard for the public officer. It helps with the maintenance of the integrity of that officer and the office that they serve. Now, the details about the gift registry, you can visit our website and you can get that all there. And finally, manage conflicts of interest in accordance with the code of conduct. Ladies and gentlemen, this list, as I've said before in other fora, is not exhaustive. And I'm certain that as you sit in your chairs right now, you can think of other things that you can do, or you can encourage others to do, to act in accordance with the laws of Grenada, improve our governance, and help us to improve our perceived levels of corruption around the world. And as I close, I told you I'll be brief. I want to share with you a quote from Nobel Peace Prize. Ooh, my tongue is getting all tied up. Peace Prize laureate. That's the Guatemalan human rights activist, Rigoberta Menchú. She once said that when you are convinced your cause is just, you fight for it. So today, because you believe, and we all believe, that the anti-corruption fight is a just cause, I say to us, fight for it. Thank you. Keep the fight on.
Yes, your question. Did I decide that? You guide me. Is there legislation for freedom of information?
Not as yet.
Right. So what you suggest that the Integrity Commission, keeping with the spirit of the presentation, that you do make a serious, prompt, as we did yesterday, presentation and urgency to the powers that be for this thing to be done. Because I think the last presenter, I think she can give some information, maybe not in this forum. But I think some years ago, many years ago, the media fraternity have been lobbying on it, and it has been going up and down, up and down. For what reason, I don't know. But I think it's a good platform late to connect integrity with the freedom of information at governmental level, so that the public, everyone can know what the right hand is doing. And this can be a public, open regulator for corruption or against corruption. We are so far, all what we see here is perception, but it's something else, crossing that bridge to go to prosecution. And then another step to go to prosecution. We don't have that here. Perception. So that's how we can beat up everything with the Freedom of Information Act. So I challenge you, Madam Chairperson, to have the submission done as yesterday. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Chair, do I
Mr.
respond?
Roberts.
Do
Thank
I
you.
respond to that?
Yes.
Okay. Before we get to the next question, let me just, I'm being challenged, so I have to rise to the challenge. Now, the answer I will give is a very legal kind of answer. As someone who has come from civil society herself, of course I support such an initiative. As an attorney who upholds the rule of law, I support such an initiative. But in law, they are what we call competing rights. And then you have to balance the rights that compete. So you have your constitutional rights, for example, the rights of privacy. But yet, for the greater good, there's some aspects of what is going on nationally that you would want to be transparent. We have our colleagues here from the FIU and the AML, and they will tell you, and the RGPF, for example, they will tell you that there are reasons in the national interest and in the interest of investigations. They may go to the DPP in confidence and be advised before they make their next move. And so therefore, from a security standpoint, in the interest of national security, for us in the Integrity Commission, there are times, because we are under the legal regime of the Integrity in Public Life Act, if we disclose certain information to the public, because it's about people's personal, private, inside business, then we are liable to 1 year's jail or $20,000 fine. But I'm saying this because it's all about how we balance it out.
That's the word, balance.
Yes.
Correct.
So for us, even in the Integrity Commission, our position is this. What we do on the security side, on the investigatory side, while working with our stakeholders and so on, until the time is right, we have to sometimes keep it confidential. However, the method by which we do what we do has to be transparent, because it gives the citizens of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique, the confidence that is required that this is how it is done. And therefore, they will understand. And people like yourself, we know, I see you are agreeing on some aspects in the context of what I am saying. People understand that, but they want to know how. So for example, we in the Integrity Commission, we know when you pass, the place is all locked up. If the door opens, you see a police officer in a uniform. Nobody hears about what is really going on in there. Investigations are ongoing. Nobody knows. Filings are happening. And unlike many other institutions in our nation, nobody knows. You don't hear. You file a declaration, at least for now, you are secure that your information is private as you want it to be. However, again, competing with the Freedom of Information Act, for example, you referring to our declarations, we are operating under the Inter-American Convention Against Corruption, which is a regional OAS piece of, treaty, which has been domesticated or imported into the laws of Grenada. However, without making any adjustments, Grenada also went and acceded to the UN Convention Against Corruption. So one tells us to be secret, confidential, and quiet about things. The UNCAC and the countries that have acceded to the UNCAC, that's a UN convention, they favor an open registry system. So if you file the declarations, everybody knows, for example, what I would earn online is online. Nobody, you don't have to ask a question, you don't have to dig, you don't have to write. You just type in and they come up. This is what this individual earns. That's under the open registry system. We are not yet there. So I am saying to you, for us, we have to abide as Integrity Commission, we have to abide by the laws, we have to abide by the Constitution. But it is you, the people, the civil society, who will join with all organizations where we meet, where we intersect, we in the integrity system will support. I hope that meets your advocacy challenge and your query.
Okay, to go to a candidate.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions?
I'm going to start off with the concern of a CSO. I'm Sandra, one of the younger members of the civil society movement. And I've been involved for maybe over a decade or so, but also pretty young. And one of the things that bothers me is the continued emphasis on CSO and building relations with civil society. Yet for all, when we get involved, we always seem to come across roles and where we feel sometimes that we are ready for a stamping case. And when I sit in front, one of the things I always ask, what ensure that our role in civil society, that when we get involved in anti-corruption initiatives or when we try to get involved maybe in domestic violence and all the stuff, that the authorities really recognize the role that we play. I think too many times we walk out of forums like this feeling that we're just rubber stamping something to say that civil society participated. But how do we get authorities to it? What sort of mechanisms are in place to get authorities to recognize and value the contribution that we made? As an instance, I don't know who is already here, where I had to call the police and make complaints on behalf of a victim, for instance, and the officer will hang up on me simply because in his eyes, I don't have authority. So we really don't want to be rubber stamping just to say that we participate. We really want to see mechanisms in place, whether through legislation, where the value and the contributions that we bring to fora like this is really, really, really seen and valued and appreciated. The Integrity in Public Life Act, representation, talk about corruption and everything. But it starts before the individual gets into public life. If you look at the Constitution, it speaks to different subsections, different things that could disqualify an individual from becoming a member of the House of Representatives. Yet for all the ordinary citizen doesn't understand that. For instance, if I'm putting up myself to be elected and I have a special interest in a government project, by the constitutional directive, that alone should disqualify me. If I have a criminal record, that alone should disqualify me. But the ordinary citizen does not understand that. So when you bring that to the fore, and I have had it because we just came from an election, you as an activist, the public come against you and say you are against the candidate, and that's not necessarily true. We have to really evaluate who we are electing into office, so we don't have to be having discussions like this about corruption in the public sector. We really need to start looking at it, and I believe that it starts even before the person steps into the role of public life.
Thank you very much for this. I'm not too sure.
Something more like comments
Yeah.
and advocacy positions, I think, more so than a question. So
Yeah,
we will
that's what I
let it
thought.
settle and embrace it.
Okay,
I think I may comment on that. See, what pertains in under the regulations about civil society. In civil society, you are more or less like the media, hot dog, glue. I mean, you will bring things to the fore. So, technically speaking, you don't need anybody's permission. You identify things. In fact, it also based on the resources available to you. Because the most effective civil society groups I say that they make their own, they come out with their observation public. Because you see, you are trying to make the government accountable as a citizen, as a civil society group. So if you have an issue that you think you have to be put in the public domain, then you put it in the public domain. Because that's where the pressure points comes. It's not Integrity Commission or any other body to give you access. You, by the Constitution, you have your right. You have the right to put things that you feel passionate about that don't going the way it's supposed to go in the public domain. So once you put it out there, then you put the government will have to listen because you put the government under pressure. So that's the way I look at it. And that's what I've seen others doing. But again, it depends on your resources and how you partner with.
The basic platform of action
Yes.
is that the government of Grenada has also is a party tool. One of the clauses says that as a human rights defender, that the government has a role to protect me. But that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is that if we stand up and we advocate for human rights, I have experienced recently you have people in government who are literally threatening you, and that is not the role that they should play. And I don't think that they understand that.
And
So
have
we
you put
sign
that
on
in,
to these
have you put that in
conventions
public
and
domain?
and those that yes,
Have you put it in public domain?
yes, I have.
Yes, because once you put it out there in public domain, then the issues will be discussed in public, and then that's where the pressure will be put. But then coming from it's a groundswell that you have done. That's how you get your legitimacy. You put anything that is not right for you, put it out there. Find a way to put it in the public domain. General discussion, general questions, and that's how good governance is promoted across. So anyway, thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, so that brings us to the end of this afternoon's session and the end of day 5 training, or the 5 days of training during the week. So let me just say thank you to all the participants, or this afternoon's participants, those in person and those online. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. We say thank you to Pastor Devon Rashid for the invocation. Say thank you to Mrs. Henry Greenwich for the welcome. Thank you to Pastor or Canon Mark Kendall for bringing greetings from the regional body. Then we'll say thank you to the presenters this afternoon, Dr. Roger Quarantine and Mrs. Nicole Humphrey-Best. Thank you very much.
Mr. Moderator, for this afternoon, on behalf of the Office of the Integrity Commission and our colleagues here, that we should give our moderator, chairman for this afternoon, a big round of applause. And you may have a seat. At this time, I would just like to invite Dr. Quarantine. So I will now hand over to our acting head of investigation to share some remarks.
Thank you, Mrs. Sammy David. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Quarantine, we are extremely happy and we feel special, extremely special that you always make the time for us to come and share your knowledge and your expertise. And we promise you that we are going to put it into play. We have contributed to our entities and we will continue to do so under your guidance. And we would like to show you appreciation by this small token. There's not enough that we can do or say to show you how much we appreciate it, but this is just a small start. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me see what it is.
Transparency. But it's $500 or more.
Thank you. I collect this thing, so you know what I like.
Dr. I'm just saying, this is actually a special kind of one.
When you put the water in it.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I know. And then the colors come out. But you only have 1/10 of the water in there. Yeah, it started reacting.
Yes, it changes color.
Yeah, that's right. So over time, see that it's changing.
Yes.
Well, it's coming. Let me.
I hope we right there.
Yes, it is. Say.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
Yes. Okay. Let me read whatever it is there now. It's very, very clear now because it's clear. Dr. Roger Quarantine, in recognition of your valued commitment to the success of Grenada's anti-corruption regime. So Grenada is there. Sorry.
have the
The writing is upside down. If you see it on this.
The people could see correct.
Didn't collect bribe.
Okay, so just to share that on your way out, please collect some light refreshment. Thank you very much again.